Hello and welcome to this edition of Tips and Tricks. The secret to catching bass on shallow cranks, part 3, the technique. I've already told you about the setup, I've told you about the cranks, and now I'm going to tell you about how I actually go about it when I'm actually fishing them. First and foremost, parallel. I'm always fishing parallel to shore. I don't sit out and throw straight at the shore. I'm always fishing parallel. Doesn't matter if it's rocks, doesn't matter if it's reeds and trees or weeds that are out next to deep water. I'm always running along them, usually like 10 feet out, and I'm throwing parallel, trying to run it parallel. The only time I don't do parallel is if I'm on a flat or somewhere where it's just open water all around me, and then I will just cast all over until I find a sweet spot or an area they're in. But first and foremost, parallel. Second off, and very, very important, almost as important as parallel, is always fish above the fish. That's why I have so many cranks, and that's why I have so many that run in so many different depth ranges, because you always want it to be fished above the fish. I mean, I'm shallow cranking, and like I said, usually 3 to 6 feet as far as I go. That's what I consider shallow. And I'm usually fishing and like to fish 10 to 15 feet of water. Something in that range. People are like, oh, well, but you're fishing, so shallow and deep, because you want to fish above them. I mean, and another really, I wouldn't say bizarre thing, but odd thing is, I never try to hit anything. And everyone always thinks, oh, cranks, oh, you're bumping stuff, oh, you're hitting stuff, you're grinding over stuff. That's good and deep cranking, and maybe medium cranking, but shallow cranking, I don't try to hit anything. I try to run it over the top. If there's stick-ups or a rock down there, I don't try to bang it into it. I try to rip it right past it on the side, and right past it on the side, or right over the top of it. I don't try to hit anything. And that's kind of one of the weirdest things, and when I tell people that is, what? No, when you're high-speed crank, it's strictly reaction bite, and usually it's because it's ripping right past them, just so fast. That's why it's important to have the rod the way it is. That's why it's important to have the line you use. That's why it's important to have the high-speed reel you use and the certain type of cranks and the depth. And that pretty much sums up how I do it. I run parallel, and I don't try to hit anything. I just try to keep it moving as fast as I can. And in this technique, you're going to have to tune them a lot, because they're not usually, when they say high and you're using that 28 to 30 and you're reeling it, it's usually reeling a lot faster than most people think. And a lot of times these things are tuned, but they're tuned at about a medium fast speed. When you kick it up to fast, you're going to have to sit there and tune them. And sometimes you catch a few fish, you're going to have to tune them. But that's it with the technique. The technique itself is actually pretty much the easiest part. But in that, it's different than what most people think. I'm not hitting anything. I'm getting in close and fishing very parallel. And I'm just covering a lot of depth ranges, from 3 feet to 6 feet. I could run something that runs 6 feet and not get a bite. Suddenly run something in the same area that runs 3 feet and start catching fish. So that's the part 3 and how I'm kind of wrapping this all up. I already went through lots of colors and the setup. But run them parallel, run them as close as you can to any sort of cover. And if you have to, move out a little bit, because you always want to run them over 8 to 10 feet of water, 15 feet of water. You don't want to run them in 3 to 4 feet water and run them at the level of the fish. You want to run it above them. So there you go, part 3, the technique. That wraps up this segment on the secret to catching bass on shallow cranks. I hope it helps. Until next time. Man. Alright, after tournament again, I'm just wandering around here in the public park. I get another fish. This one's probably about 6 pounds. Can't believe this. I'm going around over here just throwing like 5-10 feet out. And I just caught this big boy. Man. I don't know, it's at least 5.5. Wow. Alright, let me take some pictures. I can barely hold him up.